There are a lot of ways to customize your Fujifilm X or GFX camera. You can create custom menus with My Menu and the Q menu. You can customize all the buttons, dials, and touchscreens to do functions that make sense to you. And you can customize your displays, the contrast, colors, what happens when the camera is rotated. In this video, I want to address some questions that come up a lot in my Fujifilm photography courses, specifically about what is actually displayed on the screen. And available options are going to differ from camera to camera, but I hope this helps get you started, regardless of which camera you have. First things first, let's take a look at which displays are on and when. Do you want your LCD screen to always be on or always be off? Do you want the LCD to turn off when you bring the camera up to your eye, when the EVF will then come on? Is your LCD just black, but your viewfinder is on and you can't figure out how to get your LCD to turn on? Some cameras, mostly the SLR style bodies, but not all, have a view mode button. You can press this button to cycle through the viewfinder configuration options. If you press this while in shooting mode, you'll cycle through the shooting viewfinder settings, and if you press it in playback mode, you'll cycle through the playback viewfinder settings. And you might have to look through the EVF to see which mode it's in if the LCD is off to begin with. Other cameras, including some of those SLR style bodies, have a view mode setting in the screen setup menu. And let's go through what's available there. If set to eye sensor, the LCD will be off and the EVF will be on when the camera is up to your eye. It uses that eye sensor next to the viewfinder to figure that out. And then when the camera is down, the LCD will be on and the EVF will be off. Viewfinder only means that the LCD will always be off and the EVF will always be on. LCD only means that the LCD will always be on and the EVF will always be off. If you set it to EVF plus eye sensor or viewfinder only plus eye sensor, the LCD will always be off and then the EVF will only come on when your camera is up to your eye. Eye sensor plus LCD image display means that the LCD will always be off except for image playback when your eye is not next to the EVF. The EVF will only come on when your eye is next to that viewfinder. I prefer eye sensor for shooting and LCD only for playback, but experiment to see which one you prefer. And a little word of caution about that little eye sensor. It doesn't specifically detect your eye, it just detects anything that's close to it. So moving your finger too close or bringing the camera too close to your chest could activate that eye sensor. Are you not seeing any information around the screen at all? Or maybe you're seeing a black screen with too much information and no image. You do have different displays available to you in both shooting mode and playback mode, and you can cycle through those displays by pressing the display back button either in shooting or playback mode. You can see just the image with no information, the image with information around the margins, or just a black screen with extra image information. And that's for shooting mode. The displays in playback mode are a little different. Do you see huge symbols in your display and not much else is displayed because those symbols are so big? Or maybe the default small symbols are hard to read and you wish they were larger. The large indicators mode replaces the default small symbols that cover the margins of the screen and replaces them with fewer symbols that are larger and easier to read. You can customize which information is displayed in large indicators mode under Setup, Screen Setup, Large Indicators Display Setting. Go into this submenu to customize which information is displayed when using that large indicators mode. You can choose which exposure information is displayed at the bottom of the screen under Exposure Display. You can also enable or disable the exposure scale. Then select which information you want displayed in the 4 icons on the left side and the 4 icons on the right side. Don't want anything displayed in that spot at all, just select none. Then you can enable or disable large indicators mode for the viewfinder, the LCD, or both. You'll see large indicators mode for the viewfinder and LCD on the last page of the screen setup menu, and then just set that as you wish. Now let's look at some of the other display overlay options. Framing guidelines are useful to aid in your compositions, and you can choose which guideline you prefer under Setup, Screen Setup, Framing Guideline. Most other photographers and I prefer Grid 9, which is your standard rule of thirds grid. And note that this submenu only selects which framing guideline you prefer. It won't be displayed unless Framing Guideline is enabled in the Display Custom Settings submenu. So let's look at that submenu now. In here, you can select which information is displayed in the Standard Indicators display, the smaller symbols. And the changes you make here will be mirrored in both the LCD and the EVF. Cameras with optical viewfinders like the X100V and X Pro 3 have additional customizations available for the optical viewfinder. Anything with a check mark next to it will show up in the display. So if you find some information annoying and you don't want it in your display, just remove the check mark next to it. One of those annoying things that a lot of photographers report but don't know how to turn off are the black and white blinking areas. That's the live view highlight alert, and it shows you which areas of the image are overexposed or pure white. So you can turn off live view highlight alert if you don't want that on your screen. I think Fujifilm cameras are pretty cool for all of their customization options. The more you customize your camera to the way you want it, the more efficient you'll be in capturing those special moments. So I hope this video helps you understand the display aspect of that. Please leave any questions or comments below. Subscribe for more tips like this. And if you ever want to learn even more about your specific camera, you can check out my Fujifilm camera tutorial courses linked in the description here. And don't forget to use the coupon code BLOG20 for 20% off those courses. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.